pause now for a break from our regular programming to remind you that hockey, at its highest level, is the most awesome thing in sports. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Oilers 5, Panthers 4 in overtime. Last night in Sunrise, Leon Draisaitl, who else? The guy does his score in overtime. 11-18 into that period with the winner. But it's not about the outcomes. At least not right now, it isn't. It's about the hockey. Because, see, it's one thing to have all these games going to OT. It's another thing to have the Panthers tie with 19 seconds and change left on a Sam Reinhart goal. It's yet another thing to see the Panthers score the first 3 goals of the game. Edmonton makes a goaltending switch, and they score the next 4 goals. And even when you think you see daylight between these teams, you don't. It's just that it's creaked open toward one side, and then it creaks open to the other side. And even then, that's not what does it for me in this final. Because you can have 2 evenly matched teams in a final, and the final itself is still underwhelming. And it could be for any number of reasons. It could be because of a lack of stars. Not exactly an issue in this series. It could be for a lack of aggressiveness. It could be boring hockey. It could be sitting back. Wow, not an issue in this series. It could be, and this is only relative to newcomers or people who would just be turning on the game because they heard Taylor Swift was there. It could be that you'd have such great goaltending that you wouldn't have very many goals. Well, that's not an issue. I thought both Sergei Bobrovsky and Calvin Pickard, once he came in to rescue Stuart Skinner, I thought the goaltending was outstanding. We still ended up seeing 9 goals. We still ended up seeing a save in overtime by Pickard on Sam Bennett that I can't believe happened. And it was, while acknowledging Draisaitl getting the winner, the play of the game. That sequence, that shot by Bennett should have been a goal 100 times out of 100. And even Pickard was only able to get just a tiny piece of it to change its direction and get it to bang off the crossbar. That's not just like good, very good hockey. It's not even great hockey. It's extraordinary. It might be some of the best hockey we've seen. Well, speaking for myself, some of the best hockey I've seen at the NHL level. Oh man, I'm going to date myself with this reference. Well, whatever. This century, okay, meaning in the 2000s. Now, I'm not going to be one of those people that declares the Panthers the team of this century, although I've seen, heard, and read that already. They kind of need to win another one, meaning they need to win this one. Yeah, they've got a ton of talent. They've got extraordinary depth, chemistry, vibes, all that. But as the 1993 Penguins should prove for all eternity, really, that doesn't matter if you're not raising that cup at the end. And now, I mean, we're at least guaranteed to have 6 games out of this. I don't see any way that it wouldn't be a 7-game series. I've thought that from the beginning. But even there, you take everything I've just said and stack on top of it that it was the same 2 teams in the last final, and that one went 7 games, and that one went to overtime. No, really, tell me what compares. In your lifetime, whether you're young or old, whatever, anywhere in between, tell me what compares. Do you want to go back to the Penguins in Detroit in 2008, 2009, the drama of Sidney Crosby and that whole group coming up, challenging for their first championship, the old Hall of Fame Red Wings going for it one more time, showing the youngsters how it's done, and then the youngsters fighting back, That really, really was very good stuff. I'm not here to diminish it, okay? But was it this? Was the hockey like this? Of this caliber? You can't take your eyes off this. Not just in the third period and overtime. First period. I'm terrified to leave the room. I suppose if you really want to force a minus into this equation, it's that this isn't going to be something that blows up in the United States on some grand scale from a TV ratings viewpoint. I haven't checked them during this final, but I don't really have to. One of the markets is Sunrise, Florida, and the other market is not even in our country, so it counts as a 0 in the US Nielsen ratings, meaning everything that happens north of the border. But there's an even bigger part of me that's like, I don't care. I don't care. I want people who already love or even just like hockey or have just started to try to mess around with it, whether it's on skates, on rollerblades, on a deck. I want them to see this, to appreciate this, to embrace this for what it is, because it truly is special. You're not going to see two teams line up like this in any final anytime soon, unless, of course, they're both back again next year. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Bob up in Erie, who says, "Hi, Dan. I don't write your way very often, but I enjoy the shows. I appreciate that." The phrase that hit me in listening to Dan Muse speaking at his press conference the other day was foundational elements. He said that. And what I would love to know is, one, what those are given his background, and two, how far away the Penguins players are from those principles. Would you happen to have any insight on those 2 points? I have insight, but it's not going to be something that's super specific, that's going to create some sort of mental definition for you of what constitutes a Muse type player, what disqualifies someone from being a Muse type player. And I'll give you the obvious example. Under Mike Sullivan, if you saw a forward who just did not have that straightaway speed, that bag skate speed, if you will, point A to point B, no curves. There was, although Sullivan would never openly say this, a red line there that he couldn't cross as a head coach, because he felt that if his team wasn't first in on the forecheck, then everything else he'd hoped to achieve by getting the puck in deep was doomed to fail, had no chance, because the other guys were just going to go back there, get it, look around, take your time, have a sandwich behind the net, and execute a systematic breakout. That, in turn, leaves you feeling kind of stupid as a head coach. So anytime the Penguins would pick up a player who you would look at their, especially a forward, which is really what we're talking about here, where you'd look at their numbers and you'd see they had, 1 or 2 goals over 65 games. Riley Sheahan jumps to mind if you're looking for a random name from the recent past. Because Sheahan, in addition to having some skill that might have been underutilized in other places, he had point A to point B to spare. So whether it was him, whether it was later on getting Drew O'Connor, once DOC lengthened out his stride and became more effective in general, or going back to Jim Rutherford's transformational move that made the Penguins into Stanley Cup champions in both 2016 and 2017. That, of course, was getting Carl Hagelin from Anaheim. Hags, you didn't care if he scored because he was the fastest player in the world. And he could do just enough with the puck to make that matter. He's going to get there. He's going to have clean possession. He didn't need to do the DOC thing where you're doing people eating along the glass. Hags would be the one getting there, and he'd be the one having the sandwich behind your net, waiting for his line mates to catch up. If there's that type of player that's some prototype for Muse, I'm not even peripherally aware of it. But then you want to know something else? I don't expect to be. Not at all in the short term. Not because he might not have one in the back of his head. Not because he and Kyle Dubas wouldn't have already conversed about this. You'll recall that both of them acknowledged to me in the press conference the other day that they have shared strategic concepts. They have shared personnel concepts. Now, I was asking about defensemen, but there's no reason that wouldn't apply to the guys up front as well. But there's also this, and I don't mean for this to sound even remotely disrespectful. I have no doubt that Muse earned his way to the NHL. He did it in a somewhat non-traditional path, but also in a traditional path in that he has served several seasons as an NHL assistant coach. Well, an assistant coach has a lot of responsibility, more than most people think, has a lot of say and sway, more than most people think, even has more of a voice in the locker room than most people will think. But what they don't have and what they can't have until they're actually doing the main job is that overall, overarching sense of team identity. And to find that in Muse's own past, you have to go back a bit, and you have to go back to minor leagues and developmental leagues. And it's just not the same, because even there, you don't have full license. Somebody from some parent club is telling you, we want this player to be handled this way. We want this system to be handled that way. It's not until you get here that the eyes get really wide in this area. But Muse did acknowledge that we're all going to see that, what it is that we're talking about, asking about, curious about, come training camp. And you know what? We'd better see it, because every one of those sessions is going to count. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. Game 5 of this amazing Stanley Cup Final is tomorrow night in Edmonton. I can't wait for this. And let's get back together and talk about it Monday morning.